The episode begins with a girl getting heckled by her boyfriend. He tells her if they want to go anywhere, she would be the one paying for it. She retaliates with a kick, but he blocks it and throws her to the ground and further insults her as he leaves. She is then seen in class moping to her friends about how her first boyfriend broke up with her. Her friends tried to warn her, but she thinks he looks like Ken Takakura, her version of the perfect man. Her friends destroy her confidence and tell her men like that don't exist anymore. She walks through the school hallway, feeling dejected when she sees a boy at the back of the class getting bullied. She intervenes and the bullies stop as she is curious to find out what he is reading as she thinks about how lame people are for bullying others. She gets up and leaves the class as she walks down the hall and talks to herself. The boy who was bullied earlier tells Momo he knows why she is in love. He asks her if she is in the occult and further goes on a rant about aliens, and she, being frustrated, completely dismisses him, hurting his feelings. Feeling sorry, Momo then later apologizes and tells him she doesn't believe in aliens, but in ghosts. He laughs at her and explains to her that ghosts aren't real. They then make a bet. Momo says if ghosts are real, then the boy will be her gopher. The boy, Occult-kun, tells her if aliens are real, then she will be his gopher. Later, Momo is seen in Nagi Hospital, a UFO hotspot. Simultaneously, Occult-kun is at a spiritual hotspot tunnel in attempts to prove that ghosts don't exist. As the two argue back and forth, Momo tells Occult-kun the reason why she believes in ghosts is because her grandmother was a medium. A flashback shows that she was always forced to do a ritual while walking to school by her grandmother, and she was made fun of as a result. Momo explains that she still loves her grandmother because she was always nice to her and grew her up, and this is why she believes in ghosts. Momo then asks Occult-kun why he believes in aliens, to which he replies that he doesn't need a reason to like something. Just then, Occult-kun spots a yokai named Turbo Granny. Occult-kun then tries to sprint to the end of the tunnel, but Momo warns him not to let the granny outrun him or he will be cursed. As the phone loses connection and Momo tries to run for the exit, she is met by three mysterious men who capture her, rip her clothes off, and strap her to a chair. These three men, the Serpoians from the planet Serpo, explain to Momo that they can only reproduce through clone technology and have decided to extract Momo's uterus after sex. As the Serpoians try to use psychokinesis to arouse Momo's sexual desire, she resists them. Just as they were about to physically force her, her cell phone rings. A foot kicks the alien through the phone. The Turbo Granny, who has possessed Occult-kun, bites one of the Serpoians' sack. The aliens and the cursed Occult-kun battle. Although formidable, the aliens overpower Occult-kun with their psychokinesis abilities. He reflects on how he always wanted to see aliens and thought they were friendly. He has always been an outcast and bullied because he was different. However, Momo was the only one who stood up for him, and for that he vows to protect her, but is struck down from another attack from the aliens. Momo, who is about to be overwhelmed by the aliens' psychic powers, remembers the instructions her grandmother gave her. Momo then surprisingly activates immense psychic powers, overpowering the aliens and breaking out of their clutches and defeating the Serpoians. As Momo tries to find Occult-kun to escape the spaceship, she is then attacked by him. Momo tries to free Occult-kun from the Turbo Granny's curse, but was only able to retrieve his body. The Turbo Granny's spirit explains to Momo that she has his weenie, and in order to lift the curse, she needs to come to the tunnel in order to get it, then vanishes. Panic ensues as the spaceship crashes. However, Momo and Occult-kun come out unscathed. As the two leave the ship, they both realize that aliens and ghosts exist. Occult-kun then gets up and leaves Momo, telling her that he will find a way to break the curse himself. They then share a solemn moment as she realizes that he is actually Ken Takakura, shocking her. The couple continue arguing about his name, but soon as Momo loses focus, Ken gets partially taken over by the Turbo Granny. She quickly throws him into the wall, breaking the curse, and he thanks her. Frustrated, Momo tells him his new name will be Okarun because he likes the occult. They argue, but he accepts the name. Okarun ends up farting in Momo's face, and they begin to argue, but Okarun explains to her that she is pressuring him too much. As they argue, the sun rises, and Momo theorizes that the curse should not be active in the day and invites Okarun to her place. As they stand in the front of the entrance of her grandmother's residence, Momo warns Okarun that her granny almost killed her last boyfriend, shocking him. As he tries to enter, he is instantly set ablaze. Momo quickly throws him into the water and realizes that the residence is protected by a talisman that wards off evil and misfortune. She takes the talisman off the wall, and as Okarun walks in, she makes fun of his hair. Later, Momo tries to change her clothes, but when she closes the door, Okarun's curse comes back. Ashamed, she tries to cover herself as Okarun barges in while she was changing. Momo then uses her psychic powers to slam him to the wall, stopping the curse. After she gets dressed, she gives him clothes to put on and wonders if his weenie is really missing and asks to see what it looks like, making Okarun freak out. They argue, and Momo's harsh remarks make Okarun emotional. As she draws near to him to apologize, he insults her and they begin fighting. Suddenly, they hear a weird noise coming from the door. They then realize that they forgot to put the talisman back on the wall. Afraid, they sneak out the back door where they are met with a black cloud over the residence. Without warning, the compound is completely encased with stone. Momo can't put the talisman on the wall because it would incinerate Okarun. Momo and Okarun then start bleeding from their noses from a mysterious black fog. Suddenly, a huge monster appears before them and tries to kill them. They run for their lives as the monster assumes a sumo wrestling stance. It then releases poison from its mouth, prompting Okarun to come up with an idea. He proposes for her to use her powers to release the Turbo Granny curse to take over his body, but keep his mind clear. She reluctantly agrees, as the monster attacks and all hope seems lost. Okarun, who has merged with the Turbo Granny, saves Momo. Momo, who is shocked by the transformation, asks about his mental state, as his demeanor and speech are awkward. He affirms that his mind is clear and casually walks to the monster. The monster attacks, and in a swift strike, he cuts its fingers off. The monster then looks him in the eyes as he vomits blood and is pulled to safety by Momo. Okarun explains to Momo that the curse has put immense pressure on his body because of the speed in which he moves. Momo notices its sumo wrestling stance and theorizes if they can get him to fall on his hands, they can win. Okarun then transforms and charges at the monster along with Momo, then severs the monster's leg. His hand touches the ground as he starts to melt, but he recovers. The monster smashes Momo into the wall. Okarun starts to get completely taken over by the curse, but Momo saves him. Momo taunts the monster as he punches her deeper into the wall, pushing her out of the gate. She then cunningly uses her psychic powers to pull Okarun to her, as well as the talisman, then places it back on the pole, incinerating the monster. They tightly embrace as things return to normal. Momo, relieved that the threat is over, quickly stops Okarun's curse from spreading again and compliments him on his hairstyle. Exhausted, Momo faints and the curse completely takes over Okarun. The episode opens with a TV scene of an idol being asked questions about his personal life by a medium who goes by the name Dodoria. Dodoria tries to guess the right answers, but they are all seemingly wrong. After the TV show ends, two directors ask whether or not they should scrap the show. One of them says to keep the show and air it because no one ever watches local stations. Later, Dodoria is seen in a taxi where the driver asks her if she can give him a prediction instead. She insults him. Okarun, who is now completely taken over by the Turbo Granny's curse, prepares to attack Momo, but just then Dodoria attacks Turbo Granny with a nail and a piece of wood, throwing her into the water. She taunts Turbo Granny. Enraged, Turbo Granny retaliates with blinding speed and tries to kill Dodoria. But she was instantly incinerated and trapped in a circle created by Dodoria. Turbo Granny tries to escape the circle, but the barrier burns her hand. Dodoria then draws a line in her circle, which shortens the space in Turbo Granny's circle. Turbo Granny threatens Dodoria, and they argue back and forth, but she hits her with a bat. As Dodoria is about to kill Turbo Granny, she blocks the attack and tells her if she dies, then Okarun will as well. She cuts the circle anyway, and Turbo Granny is set on fire. The scene switches to Momo awaking from exhaustion in a panic. She runs downstairs and meets Dodoria watching TV. Frustrated, Momo presses Dodoria for answers on the whereabouts of Okarun. But Dodoria sarcastically gives her answers about her not believing in ghosts. Out of options, Momo apologizes to Dodoria in hopes that she can find Okarun. Dodoria tells her that he is in the shrine. She races to see Okarun, who is in perfect health. However, he can't leave the shrine because the Turbo Granny's curse will reactivate. Momo explains to Dodoria that the Turbo Granny took his ding-dong and will be cursed until he gets it back. She goes on to say that she now has psychic powers that were activated when she had to fight the aliens, to which Dodoria replies that aliens don't exist. Momo goes on to tell Dodoria that she needs to find a way to break the curse. Dodoria tells a story of Turbo Granny, a bound spirit who is attached to one location. Dodoria goes on to say that there is also another spirit that is also bound in this location, and she was unable to exorcise the spirit because the two spirits are fused into one. She warns Momo not to go back to the tunnel, but Momo strengthens her resolve about saving Okarun. Dodoria teases her but helps her. Dodoria explains to Momo that Turbo Granny thinks no one can outrun her, so if she challenges her, she will accept. She goes on to tell Momo that she has to lure Turbo Granny outside of territory. That's where she will be at her weakest. Momo suggests that she uses her talisman to trap Turbo Granny, but she tells her that it can't happen because she is weak outside of her territory. Dodoria says that Okarun and Momo need to train in order to beat Turbo Granny. Momo and Okarun then share an intimate moment. The scene shifts to Momo trying to get some tea from the fridge and Dodoria watching TV. The pop idol from the beginning of the episode reveals all of the personal information that Dodoria asked was true. She scoffs, then changes the channel. The scene then shifts to Okarun wanting to pee, but he doesn't want Momo to watch. Dodoria, indifferent, tells him to just do it, but he refuses. Dodoria asks Momo how she is able to keep the curse off of him. She explains that she can see and manipulate auras. Okarun, at the end of the line, rushes into the house to use the bathroom. Momo and Dodoria try to stop him, but he successfully makes it. Okarun, frustrated, wants the curse to end. As Momo and Dodoria talk about how her powers work and how they can unlock them, the Turbo Granny completely takes over Okarun and tells Momo that the curse is contagious and she can curse anyone who Okarun looks at. She warns Momo that if she doesn't come to the tunnel tonight, she will kill everyone that Okarun looks at and disappears. Later that night, Dodoria gives them ghost-proof clothes and warns them to be careful, else they could die. Dodoria embraces Momo as they leave on a train to defeat the Turbo Granny. Okarun and Momo stand at the entrance of the tunnel. As they start to walk through, they begin to argue on ways to defeat the Turbo Granny. Suddenly, they are met by a giant granny head and are afraid. Just as they are about to run, they are met by another granny head. Terrified, they try to launch an attack, but it is stopped by Turbo Granny. Momo then tells Okarun to transform using the Turbo Granny's curse to fight her. But as he moves closer to her, he transforms back into a human. Turbo Granny then explains that she gave Okarun his weenie, so the curse has been lifted, and she will not let them use her power against her. As Turbo Granny gets ready to eat the couple, Momo remembers the words of Dodoria and taunts Turbo Granny into playing a game of tag, and she proudly accepts. Momo gives her the stipulation of counting up to 10 minutes, then trying to find them. She accepts, and they run. As they reach the end of the tunnel, they realize that Turbo Granny is already to the 10-minute mark. She catches Momo and binds her. Confused, Okarun tells Turbo Granny she is cheating, but Turbo Granny tells him that they didn't specify how to count. Out of time, Turbo Granny tries to catch Okarun, but he jumps toward her and bites her nipple. She cries out in pain as she tries to get Okarun off of her, but the clothing that Dodoria gave Okarun protects him. With no other options, Turbo Granny decides to possess Okarun again, only for Momo to trap her inside Okarun's body using her psychic powers. As the tug-of-war begins, Turbo Granny finds herself on the losing end. Suddenly, the bound spirit of the tunnel in the form of a giant crab appears. Turbo Granny commands the spirit to kill Okarun and Momo. Out of the tunnel and onto the street, Momo and Okarun run for their lives as the giant crab attacks them, but it is suddenly distracted by a sign on the side of the road. Just as the giant crab was about to attack Okarun and Momo, they used the Turbo Granny's curse without her permission, making her furious. As Okarun runs away from the giant crab and carries Momo on his back, he tells her that she is too heavy and he can only run in a straight line, causing them to run off the side of the road into a small city. The giant crab, relentless in its pursuit, chases them. Okarun comes up with an idea. They run into a health and spa building and the crab follows them, causing heavy destruction. As the crab tries to attack, Momo uses her psychic abilities to burst a pipe with hot water onto the crab. This causes the crab's muscles and joints to become stiff. Later, Momo and Okarun are seen trying to get out of the boundaries of the city to weaken Turbo Granny, but just then, a giant horde of the undead chase after them. Turbo Granny explains that she used the spirits from the cemetery to help her destroy them. Cornered by both the giant crab and hordes of zombies, Momo urges Okarun to use his full throttle power, else they will die. Okarun, using his full throttle power, powers his way through the zombies and over the giant crab with the help of Momo and her psychic abilities. They make it to the edge of the city, but are caught by Turbo Granny, who ends up merging with the crab to kill the pair. Suddenly, Momo and her quick thinking uses her psychic powers to pull her and Okarun onto a moving train. They begin to taunt Turbo Granny as the train tries to leave the city, but she chases after them. As Turbo Granny jumps on the train, Momo uses Turbo Granny's arrogance against her and entraps her with her psychic powers. It is revealed that Dodoria is at the entrance of Kamigoi City, with talismans and other traps already set for when she crosses into another city. Afraid, Turbo Granny tries to leave the crab's body only to end up in a huge explosion. Relieved that the bound spirit and Turbo Granny are both defeated, Dodoria, Momo, and Okarun return to the tunnel to mourn the loss of the girls who died in that area. Dodoria explains that Turbo Granny consoled the spirits of the girls who died irrational deaths because they couldn't find peace. She goes on to say that the dead should never assault the living, and the living should never mock the dead, as she walks off. Later at Dodoria's house, her and Momo fight over the crab's meat. Okarun then says he isn't hungry and gives his food to Dodoria. Shocked, Dodoria tries to figure out why he isn't hungry. She then asks him to show her his weenie to confirm that the curse is really over. Later, Okarun and Momo share a solemn moment together as they say their goodbyes. Later, Okarun is seen getting ready to enter school, but is nervous because he is trying to figure out how he should approach Momo. He anxiously walks and spots Momo leaning on the wall as their gazes meet. They both blush. Okarun, confused about why Momo would wait for him, ignores her and walks past her. Momo then follows and bumps into him and urges him to go with her. As they head to class together, Momo talks about aliens to Okarun. She leaves him and a bully bumps into Okarun, throwing him to the ground. He sits at his desk and takes out his occult books to look through. He tells himself that he is going to forgive his bullies because he has a wonderful friend as a ball hits him in the face. Later, Momo is daydreaming. Her friends think that it is because of her ex-boyfriend, but she wants to talk to Okarun about aliens. Okarun also wants to talk to Momo about ghosts. They simultaneously think about each other and want to conversate as Momo continues to daydream. At break time, Momo and Okarun go looking for each other, but miss each other at every turn. Thinking that Momo is avoiding him, Okarun thinks that he is boring to her. Momo also thinks that her approach might be too aggressive and didn't consider his feelings. Just as lunch break is about to end, the couple, deep in thought, bump into each other and end up kissing. Shocked, Okarun explains that he was looking for her this whole time. Momo says that she was looking for him as well, and they share a solemn moment. Momo's friends then show up and realize that Okarun was the reason why she was daydreaming. Momo plays off the accusations, and Okarun does the same. On the way to the bathroom, Okarun thinks about how he treated Momo badly and wants to apologize. When he goes to pee, he goes into shock. The scene then switches to Momo's friends teasing her for liking Okarun, and she heavily denies it. Just then, Okarun, in shock, wants to talk to Momo about a situation, but she is cold towards him. Although he tries to stress the importance of the situation, he is met with a harsh tone. Okarun then starts to express his feelings to her. Momo's friends begin to root for Okarun, but Momo turns a cold shoulder to everyone. Embarrassed, Okarun leaves. Later, Okarun, who is thinking about Momo, bumps into a girl who starts to talk to him and show him affection. Momo sees this and is concerned. As the girls pass Momo, they insult Okarun, causing Momo to use her psychic powers to pull an iron pan from the top of the lockers and drop on her head. Momo then hugs Okarun and tells him, "Let's go home together," and gives him compliments, while also insulting the girls. As they walk home, Momo apologizes to Okarun. Just then, Okarun remembers to tell Momo his balls are missing. Later at home, Momo is laughing hysterically while Dodoria scolds him, telling him that he should have shown her his balls to see if they were still there. Okarun told Dodoria that the shaft was there, but he didn't check underneath. Dodoria scoffs at him, telling him his ding-dong is small. She tells Okarun that she has to take a peek into his soul. She then uses a mirror, then instructs Momo to get a doll and a washbin with some water. She explains that there is something inside of him. Momo puts a talisman on the doll, and Dodoria hits him with a fan and insults him. Okarun, confused as to what is going on, asks Dodoria why she is hitting him. Dodoria asks Momo if she sees anything. Momo then tells her that Okarun's aura changes when she hits him. Dodoria instructs her to pull the aura out when she hits him. With a fierce strike from Dodoria, Momo pulls him with her psychic powers. Feeling something has changed, the doll comes to life and runs, but Momo tracks it down and catches it. Dodoria tells Momo and Okarun that the doll is Turbo Granny, surprising them. Turbo Granny in her cat form vows to kill them. Okarun threatens Turbo Granny with a talisman, demanding she give him his balls back. But Turbo Granny says if she dies, Okarun's balls will never be the same. She then commands him to bring her a knife so she can kill the two girls, but Okarun transforms, shocking Momo. Dodoria explains that the fan she used only knocked out Turbo Granny's consciousness, but left her spiritual power in Okarun's body, and she is the only one who can transfer her consciousness. As Dodoria starts to hit the doll with the fan, Okarun compliments her and returns to his human form. Momo then makes a deal with Turbo Granny. If she gives Okarun his balls back, then they will give Turbo Granny her powers back, to which she agrees. They ask for his balls, but she says she dropped them somewhere. Turbo Granny, in cat form, tells Momo and Okarun that the balls are engulfed in her spiritual energy, and they will know it when they see it. Momo, exhausted, tells her she can't find it anywhere. Turbo Granny tells the pair that the balls contain a powerful life force, and it would attract the attention of spirits and yokai. She goes on to say that the entities collect items with high life force because they believe it will bring them back to life. Momo and Okarun are concerned, but Turbo Granny, however, is indifferent and mocks the pair, causing them to attack her. As they return home to strategize, Dodoria explains that she will find intel about his balls. She also lets him know that the power is dangerous and they have to retrieve it. Quiet Turbo Granny observes this conversation. Later at school, one of the boys in his class questions Okarun, asking him if Momo is his girlfriend. He blushes as he denies this claim. As the boy presses Okarun further, he tells him that he should introduce him to her because she is cute. Okarun, in his mind, never considered her to be cute because he was just happy to have a friend for the first time. The boy then asks Okarun if he has slept with her yet because the rumors suggest she will sleep with anyone. Okarun, in anger, confronts the boy while changing into his spiritual form. Shocked by his own power, Okarun sits to his desk where he meets Turbo Granny in his backpack. He then grabs the backpack and runs out of the classroom and hides. Turbo Granny then tries to seduce Okarun, but Momo shows up. Okarun, stunned by Momo's beauty, wants to tell him about Turbo Granny in his backpack, but runs away. Momo chases behind him, wondering what's the matter, as Turbo Granny decides to explore the school campus. Later, Momo's friends ask her why she is frustrated. She explains that Okarun has been avoiding her all day. To that, her friends explain that Okarun confronted a boy who tried to badmouth her. This confuses Momo. In the next scene, we see the pink-haired girl walking through the halls, talking to herself about how pretty she is and how everyone adores her. She then thinks about how Momo insulted her. so she spreads the rumor, but it didn't spread as far as she'd liked. She then calls Momo a demon because she saw her supernatural hand. Thinking she is a chosen individual, she pulls the golden ball out of her pocket, saying that the ball told her to save the world from demons, to which she agrees. A flashback shows the ball falling from the train track onto her head. She mistakes it for a marble, but when she touches it, she instantly sees the spiritual world, surprising her. In the present, the girl whose name is Ira receives a blessings and prayer book from her friends. She then goes on a rant about how Momo is trying to spy on them, but is interrupted by some boys. She then tells her friends that they can meet up after school as Turbo Granny watches. On the school roof, Momo tries to communicate with Okarun, but he looks away. Turbo Granny and Momo argue, but Okarun interrupts them by telling Momo that Turbo Granny has found a strange woman. Turbo Granny tells Momo that she was looking around the school for the golden ball, and Momo dismisses her. However, Turbo Granny tells her that whoever touches the ball is given the ability to see spirits, and because of this, these spirits can see and attack them. Momo then asks Turbo Granny who is the strange woman's name, and Turbo Granny tells her she will introduce them to her after school. Later, Ira is seen in class holding the golden ball while trying to figure out how is she going to defeat Momo. She walks to the window as she sees the woman in the red dress drawing closer. Later, as Okarun and Momo meet, Ira asks Momo if she can talk to her, to which she agrees. Turbo Granny then tells Okarun that Ira is the one. As they both walk to an abandoned warehouse, Momo is tackled by Ira's friends and is tied up. Ira then tries to exorcise the demon out of her, but this frustrates Momo, forcing her to use her psychic powers on Ira's friends. Seeing that her methods are not working, Ira uses the golden ball to try to remove the demon from Momo. Momo asks Ira where did she get the golden ball from. Ira says from the heavens, but Momo explains that the golden ball came from Okarun's nutsack, leaving her in disgust. Just as Okarun arrives, Momo tells him that she is the strange woman, to which Okarun replies that she is being targeted by the strange woman. Suddenly, a tall yokai in a red dress appears and snatches Ira. The yokai then expresses to Ira that she has waited a long time to see her. Okarun then transforms trying to attack the yokai but is unsuccessful. The yokai thinks that Okarun is trying to take Ira from her, and she catches him. As Momo struggles to free Okarun from her mouth, because her physical hands are still tied, the yokai eats him. She then explains to Ira that she remembers her calling her mommy years ago and she was happy. She wants to hear her say it again. Ira is confused as to whose side the demon is on and wants to team up with Momo. Turbo Granny then appears and tells Momo the name of the yokai is called the acrobatic Silky. Ira then provokes Silky by calling it a monster, then she also eats her. Silky then blames Momo for misleading Ira and attacks. Momo begs Turbo Granny to free her, but Turbo Granny is indifferent and says she can't help. Silky then grabs Momo, asks her to apologize, but after she doesn't, Silky eats her. Turbo Granny then explains to Silky that a beckoning cat has the ability to beckon over some good fortune. Silky is then set on fire from the inside. Turbo Granny tells Silky that Momo took a lighter and set her hair on fire. Silky vomits out Okarun, Momo, and Ira onto the ground, and they prepare a counterattack. A woman runs down the dark streets searching for something. As she stretches out her hand, we are taken to the present with Momo and Okarun, who is holding Ira in his hands. Silky, enraged, attacks Momo and Okarun for taking Ira from her. As the pair run away with Ira, Silky relentlessly attacks. Okarun, unable to outrun Silky because of the cramped space, drops Ira. Silky, who explains that she wants to properly eat Ira so she can become one with her, is stopped by her own hair. Momo mocks Silky and congratulates Okarun for using his speed to help Silky trap herself. Silky then kicks the beams of the building to free herself, but Momo uses her psychic abilities to grab her legs and keep her trapped. Momo then tells Okarun to go full throttle and blow her away. Okarun, who is indecisive, is prompted by Momo to kick Silky away like a soccer ball. Just then, Silky breaks free from Momo's grip. Silky, who is about to deal a deadly blow on Momo, is intercepted by Okarun, who headbutts Silky straight through a wall at tremendous speed. Momo is relieved and thanks Okarun, but Okarun is in pain from using the full throttle technique. Turbo Granny, who sees the damage, isn't impressed and scolds Okarun. Momo then asks Turbo Granny if they can exorcise the yokai, but Turbo Granny explains that Okarun's attack drained Silky's spiritual power. Turbo Granny hunts for the golden ball, while Okarun tries to free Momo from the zip ties on her wrist. Momo then makes fun at Okarun for finding one of his balls. Turbo Granny interrupts the couple and tells them that Ira is dead, shocking everyone. As they check her pulse, Turbo Granny explains to them that a human that is eaten by a yokai will die. Momo survived because of her psychic powers, and Okarun survived because of the Turbo Granny's powers. They then try to perform CPR on her, but she is unresponsive. Suddenly, Silky appears and draws close and is remorseful. She suggests to Momo that she can give her aura to Ira, which will revive her. Momo doesn't believe her and thinks that she will eat Ira, but Silky tears open her jaw to show Momo her seriousness in the situation. Turbo Granny reassures Momo that Silky is speaking the truth. Momo, still cautious of Silky, has Okarun targeting her as she connects their auras. As Momo connects Era's and Silky's aura, we are carried to a flashback where a woman gets out of bed and walks in the rain. As she passes a store, she sees a beautiful red dress. Later, as she enters her house, a little girl embraces her. Day after day, she works and spends time with her daughter while saving up and teaching her ballet. As they grow together, the mother is finally able to buy a beautiful red dress for her daughter. As they lay alone and the night sky shines beautifully on them, the daughter cries in agony as her mother is brutally battered by two robbers. They take the money and kidnap the daughter. Later, as the mother regains consciousness, she rushes outside to search for her daughter and collapses. The scene then switches to the mother bloodied doing ballet in the dead of night as she remembers the beautiful memories of her daughter. Later, the mother, forgetting what she lost, is startled by a young Ira pulling on her garment, calling her Mommy. Ira is then called back by her dad. Ira, looking for her real mother, is told by her dad that she has gone away for a long time and she will have to be strong. The woman who mistakes Ira for her child vows to protect her as she grows long hair and turns to a yokai. Okarun, confused as to what is going on, prepares to attack Silky, but is stopped by Momo. Ira, who is now revived, looks on as Silky is disintegrating while apologizing and lamenting the wrong she did to Ira. Momo, curious as to why she is falling apart, is told by Turbo Granny that her aura was transferred into Ira. Therefore, she doesn't have any more life force. She also has regrets and won't be able to rest in peace. Turbo Granny tells Momo that she will end up in the void where no one will remember her. Momo, shocked, believes that this is cruel. Turbo Granny then goes on to say that whether or not she finds peace is up to her heart, and they can't help. Just as Silky is about to disintegrate, she wishes that she could have brought more clothing for her daughter and spend more time with her and apologizes. Just then, Ira runs to her and embraces her, calling her mommy and telling her she loves her, causing a flood of emotions. At Dodoria's residence, Okarun, Momo, Ira, Turbo Granny along with Dodoria are having dinner. While eating, Okarun notices the tension between Ira and Momo. Momo apologizes to Ira for dropping the tub on her head back at school, and Momo accepts. Momo then asks Ira to apologize to Okarun for making fun of him. Ira dismisses her plea and tells Momo she believes that she is a demon, and after this they start arguing back and forth while eating noodles. She also calls Okarun a demon, but she compliments Dodoria on how pretty and young she looks. This statement instantly causes Dodoria to side with Ira, upsetting Momo. Ira then accuses Momo of being a demon and promises to defeat her. While Turbo Granny and Okarun continue to eat noodles, Momo and Ira continue their back and forth with Dodoria, stirring up tension between the two. Finally, Ira leaves thanking Dodoria for the food, but she returns back and asks Okarun why did he save her. Okarun explains to her that he doesn't have a reason, and if someone is in trouble, wouldn't she help? This catches her off guard. She then vows to break the control that Momo has on him, her face with admiration towards Okarun as she runs off, leaving Okarun and Momo confused. Later, Turbo Granny begins the process to which she can return Okarun's ball back to his sack. They play a game of baseball where Turbo Granny is the pitcher, Dodoria is the batter, Okarun is the catcher, and Momo is the umpire. Turbo Granny is taunted by Dodoria as she pitches her Turbo Granny ball. As Dodoria strikes out, the ball hits Okarun in his sack. Though painful at first, Okarun is excited to have one of his balls back in his sack. The next day at school, Momo talks to Okarun about trying to find his next ball, and they need to come up with a plan, but Okarun tells her he won't be able to join her. As she carries lunch to her class to eat with her friends, she has an uneasy feeling that Okarun is hiding something. Momo then brushes off this suspicion and decides to buy a drink. As she walks back to class with an uneasy feeling, she runs into Okarun on top of Ira. Earlier, we see Okarun working out and prepping because he thinks another monster will come looking for them. He remembers Dodoria's workout regimen and continues to push. Just then, Ira shows up stunning Okarun. She tells him that she can't hold back how she feels about him and grabs him to kiss him. Okarun dodges her kiss and tries to escape her. As they wrestle, she trips him and he falls on top of her. Momo, seeing this, is hurt and leaves. Okarun, running behind her, tries to explain that it was a mistake. However, he is dismissed by Momo. As she reaches to class, she is completely dejected. The teacher then begins to show a video of a mantis shrimp. Momo then talks to the shrimp and has a freak-out moment. Her friends, concerned, thinks that Momo is possessed by the spirit of the mantis shrimp. In the next class, Okarun is working out while studying and ponders on Momo's words. Just then, the class is filled with water and Ira screams from the hallway. Okarun then goes outside to meet her. Concerned about Momo, Okarun begins to search her class. Momo is also wondering about Okarun but is angry at him for what she saw earlier. Just then, a dinosaur monster appears and uses the water as a radar to find Momo. It then unleashes a devastating laser beam attack, destroying the classroom area and the hallway. Okarun and Ira are concerned by the loud explosion. Okarun then explains to Ira that he and Momo were in this situation before, and the only way to lift the barrier is to defeat the aliens. Surprised by this, Ira asks if aliens really exist. Okarun tells her that they come for the reproductive organs. Suddenly, the shrimp mantis shows up and tries to attack Okarun and Ira. However, Okarun transforms and saves Ira in the nick of time. As the shrimp prepares to attack again, the Serpoians appear and use their psychokinesis powers to pin Okarun to the ground, causing him to transform back into a human. Ira tries to stop them, but she is easily pushed back. They then explain that they are the ones who made the barrier, and wonder if the device used to make the barrier is broken because Ira doesn't exhibit high spirituality. They then tell Okarun they came for his banana. The Serpoians explain that his banana has amazing power that surpasses their technology. They also want to take him and experiment on him and take his abilities. He is then lifted and stripped and ready to be experimented on. Suddenly, Okarun is saved by Ira, who has been taken over by the acrobatic Silky's curse. Ira, infused by acrobatic Silky's curse, kicks the Serpoians and frees Okarun. Ira goes to check on Okarun but covers her face when she realizes that he is naked. The Serpoian is surprised that Ira has high spiritual energy, but tells Ira that they will take her banana organs as the mantis begins to attack her. Okarun then sneaks away trying to find clothes as the mantis continuously attacks Ira. She effortlessly dodges him and heads for the Serpoian, which unleashes an attack that pushes her and the mantis back. The mantis, surprised, tells the Serpoian not to include him in his attacks, but he dismisses him. Ira, surprised at the Serpoian's attack, is simultaneously attacked by the mantis. While all of this is going on, Okarun is still looking for his clothes. The Serpoian attacks both Ira and the mantis again, but Ira uses him as a shield. Ira, evasive, dodges all of the mantis' attacks and counters with a kick, sending the mantis into the ceiling. She then goes to attack the Serpoian again and is instantly stopped by his psychokinesis powers. The Serpoian explains to Ira that he is impressed with her movements, but her attack power isn't strong, and they will take her, Okarun and Momo's banana organs, while everyone is in the same location. The mantis then unloads a devastating punch, forcing Ira through the wall. As they go to experiment on Ira, Okarun appears from the rubble, naked and still trying to find clothes. He transforms, but the Serpoians combine their powers, creating the Awesome Zone. Ira and Okarun are pinned to the ground while the mantis attacks them. Okarun then blocks the mantis's attack, throwing him to the wall. The Serpoians are surprised that he is able to move at first, but then realizes that Momo is interfering with them. Okarun gives gratitude to Momo, but she argues with him about making out with Ira. Ira then thanks Momo, but tells her that she won't have Okarun. As they attack, they are stopped again. The Serpoian, frustrated at the mantis, walks up to him, then takes out his tail, connecting it to the mantis's head and transforming the mantis into the Japanese businessman. He then punches them relentlessly, pinning them to the ground. Momo then gets up and pushes the Serpoians back. The mantis gives Ira a fierce uppercut, and Okarun then saves Ira while dodging his attacks. Okarun tells them he can see all of his punches. He then uses Ira's kicks as a weapon. Momo, jealous, loses her psychic power, which causes them to get thrown to the ground. Suddenly, the room is flipped and water submerges everyone as Nessie, the Loch Ness monster, appears. Okarun is excited to see it, and Ira thinks that Okarun is cute for his obsessions. Momo thinks that they are both idiots and parts them. The Serpoians threaten Nessie, but is split in half by his laser beam. Terrified, they begin to swim away. Ira is then hit with an attack that forces her away from the crowd by the mantis. It is explained that the mantis can release its full power underwater, but he has to come up to the surface for air. Momo wants to use Okarun for an attack, but as he turns, he sinks and tells Momo that Turbo Granny can't swim. They then both swim away, putting together a plan to save Ira, who is unconscious. They then begin to argue. However, Okarun then pacifies her, but the mantis attacks them. Okarun apologizes for touching Momo, but Momo comes up with a plan to use her psychic powers to squeeze Okarun to propel him forward. The mantis sends an attack after the pair, but then Momo pulls Okarun's shoulders, causing him to fly. They are then able to rescue Ira. Momo uses her psychic powers to resuscitate Ira. Momo tells Ira to strip, as it will cause them to be able to glide through the water easily. The mantis, frustrated, is unable to reach Okarun, Momo, and Ira. The mantis begs the Serpoian for more time to capture them, but was already killed. The last surviving Serpoian swims towards the mantis as the laser beam from Nessie chases him. The Serpoian merges with the mantis. In another scene, Momo and Ira rides on Okarun. The Serpoian releases a laser beam after them, but they escape. They notice that the Serpoian takes in water to shoot out the lasers. Ira then uses her hair to restrict the water intake, then tries to attack, but the Serpoian counters. He explains that they have exceptional close-quarters combat skills. He knocks her out of the way and attacks Okarun and Momo. Momo then comes out with a plan to defeat the Serpoian. She then uses herself as bait to draw out the Serpoian. Then, with a blast of her psychic powers, she removes the water from around him. This causes the body of the monster to break. In a last-ditch effort, the Serpoian tries to eat Momo, but she uses her psychic barrier to protect herself. Just as the Serpoian gets ready to fire a laser beam at Momo, it is grabbed by Ira's hair. Okarun uses Ira's hair as a direct line to go all out as Momo clears the way for him. In one fell swoop, Okarun kills the last remaining Serpoian while saving Momo at the same time. After the barrier is lifted, Okarun and Momo, naked, embrace each other and laugh, but the whole class, in disbelief, sees them on the ground. Momo and Okarun run down the hall, way ashamed, as Ira joins them. In the office, with the lights off, Okarun, Momo, and Ira are confronted by the school nurse, who suspected that they were bullied. Her name is Queen Sensei, and she urges them to tell her the truth, to which they explain that they already did. An older gentleman walks into the room and interrupts their conversation. Queen Sensei then carries him outside and whips him and tells the trio that she has to leave. Ira and Momo are worried about their reputation because everyone has seen them half-naked in the front of classroom D. Momo is frustrated at the randomness of the alien attacks. Okarun tells Momo that he believes that the aliens are after Turbo Granny's powers. Momo then asks Ira, when did she acquire Acrobatic Silky's powers? To which she replies when she started to fight. Ira then goes on a rant about how she is chosen, but Momo explains to her that she only was able to get Silky's powers because she transferred her aura to her. Okarun, concerned, thinks that Ira might be a target. This makes Ira blush because she thinks he is worried about her. As Okarun tries to figure out why they are always being targeted by aliens, Momo and Ira intently stare at each other. Okarun theorizes that the yokai are protecting the Earth from an alien invasion. He further explains that the aliens need something physical to test in order to develop their technology so they can defeat the yokai, hence why they need to find his other ball. Momo and Ira are completely lost and go back to worrying about the students at the school. Shortly after, Ira decides to blame Momo for the trouble that has transpired, to which she accepts. Ira's friends then show up, concerned. They then drag her away while Okarun pleads with Momo to clear her name. Okarun, confused, tries to figure out why she just accepts the blame. Momo, nonchalant, lets Okarun know that she doesn't really care what people think. Momo then flips the script and asks Okarun what he was doing with Ira in the back of the school. Okarun tells her that Ira forced herself on him and they both fell. He also goes on to say that he was working out and trying to get stronger. She laughs at him, but he reaffirms that he wants her to think that he is cool for getting stronger. They then share a solemn moment. Suddenly, Momo's friends then show up interrogating them both, and they deduce that the trio are in a love triangle. Ira, who is surrounded by her peers, is also questioned about the situation, but she is vague about the matter, but then they start to assume, causing Ira to feel sad. Guilty, Ira tells the crowd the truth and leaves. Later, Ira beats herself up about her popularity getting tarnished because she told the truth. Momo appears asking about why she is alone because she is usually surrounded by people. Ira dismisses her, but Momo realizes that Ira couldn't slander her name. Suddenly, the mantis appears. Momo and Ira are prepared to attack him, but he collapses. In another scene, we see the mantis consoling his child while telling him he is getting ready to leave him. Suddenly, he wakes up to find that he has received medical attention. Momo, Ira, Dodoria, and Okarun look on as they talk among themselves as they try to decide what to do with the mantis. Emotional, the mantis bows down and thanks them for saving him while he eats the food that they have prepared for him. They then have a big feast, but end up fighting over the food. After the dinner, the mantis tells the crew that his son has to have a blood transfusion every day, but is unable to afford it. He then goes on to tell them where he came from and why he left, but they can't understand what he is saying. Touched, Okarun wonders if he gives him his weenie, would it help his situation? Momo then scolds Okarun for being irrational, but Okarun wants to know if there is any way that he can help. Ira then insults Momo for not wanting to help Okarun. The mantis thanks Okarun for his kindness and accepts that he can't help him. As he gets up and leaves, Dodoria smells him and realizes that his blood is milk. She gets him some from the refrigerator and comes up with the idea to gift him a cow to carry. As he leaves, he takes the cow and thanks them. Later, the trio beg Dodoria for money for school uniforms. Dodoria tells Momo that she will only get the uniforms for Ira and Okarun because Momo only wants to exploit her. She tells Momo if she wants the uniform, she has to do an impersonation. Momo, reluctant, does the impersonation while Ira cries with laughter. As the door rings, Dodoria commands Momo to answer the door while maintaining character. As she opens the door, a tall, pink-haired boy named Gigi appears, shocking Momo. Dodoria, expecting him to come, tells Okarun that he was Momo's first love.